Greetings to you, whoever goes there. I am the modern druid, and I propose here a sum up of the main points developed in the delirium. We will only touch upon these points which are developed in the delirium. We begin by the concept of bio-techno-sociological individuation. Bernard Stiegler developed this concept to designate the human being as the articulation of three individuations. The biological individuation, our living body. The technological individuation. It is the technical apparatus that defines the specificity of human individuation. And the social individuation. Our technologies always form systems of exchange in societies. Next, we consider that, among all the technologies we use, and which constitute humanity, there are specific techniques called mnemotechnics or hypomnesia. These are techniques specifically designed to preserve memory. These techniques play a central role in our societies. It is, for instance, the emergence of writing that marks, for us, the difference between prehistory and history. Finally, we add that, among these mnemotechniques, or hypomnesias, there are some even more specific. These are hypomnesias that form systems and ultimately structure societies. We call those specific techniques. Reference, hypomnesic, of transindividuation, systems. But more simply, we'll call them RTIS. For the acronym RHTIS. Reference, hypomnesic, of transindividuation, systems. The delirium is an introduction to what we can call the RTIS theory. An RTIS would simply be a mnemotechnic that has succeeded. Its effectiveness in preserving and transmitting memory traces has made it an indispensable tool for a given society to the point of becoming structuring. Institutions are produced on the base of this mnemotechnique reference, and those institutions shape the societies with social practices, schools, archives, histories, systems of publication, accounting, and hierarchies, etc. The RTIS. We mean, those reference techniques, evolved over time. And those evolutions transformed societies. Here, in our view, is a list of the different RTIS that succeeded one another throughout history. First, there were the clan arts, which include oral storytelling, cave art, drawings, and engravings. Next came what we call the encrypted scripts, like cuneiform in Mesopotamia, or hieroglyphic writing in Egypt. Then came the simplified handwritten scripts, like the alphabet, or Hebrew. And finally, we find the RTIS of printed script, and the spread of books. This sequence concerned the West. It would be interesting to look what happened in other countries, particularly China and Japan. Because, for the West, we observe that each reference hypomnesis corresponds to a specific societal structure and ultimately, a specific era. For instance, throughout history, it seems that the people or social classes who possess power are also those who control, or have access to and use, the RTIS. You need to use the RTIS, the reference system, if you want a bit of power. For example, during the so-called prehistoric periods, the RTIS, the structural and cultural system, would have been audiovisual. We mean, composed of images and sounds, which are simple forms everyone can access, therefore the power was shared. We call this era the clan arts era, or clan era. Then, with the invention of writing, much more unequal structures would have been established. Empire and kings appeared. With the first writing systems, all power seems to have been concentrated in the hands of those who knew how to write, the king, the priests, and the scribes. This period would be called the era of royal empires. It is based on the arts of writing systems that we will call encrypted. That is, not widely disseminated in society. Cuneiform and hieroglyphs, for example. The system is very unequal. But later, writing systems became simpler, with alphabetic writing for example, making it possible for more people to learn to read and write. This shift in script allowed the warrior class, in addition to the priests and the king, to participate in the reference writing system. The warriors would then have formed the noble class, appropriating a portion of the power. This new class would have shaped a new era, known as the feudal era. It is based on simplified handwriting, hieratic and alphabetic scripts. Then, with the advent of printing, the arts evolved further, transitioning from handwritten script to the arts of printed text. And then, from the 18th century onward, the bourgeoisie dominated and organized a society that suited them, served their interests, and reinforced their power. This period is called the bourgeois period, or the bourgeois era, based on the arts of the printed book. We're still in this era. However, today, we may still be in this bourgeois era, structured by printed text, but everything suggests that digital forms of communication are emerging to compete with. In other words, we would be moving from a society structured by book-based forms of communication to one structured by digital forms of communication. We would be in what Bernard Stiegler called the in-between of epochal redoubling. According to the theory of epochal redoubling, a change of era occurs in two stages. First, technology evolves, but a significant technological evolution can disrupt the institutions of a given society. This is the first stage of epochal redoubling, the suspension of ongoing programs due to the technological change. But then, the affected institutions will either reform or disappear, and other institutions will emerge to make the new technological system runs in a coherent society. This is the second stage of epochal redoubling. Society transforms itself in response to the technological system, which then becomes a structuring part of it. In our case, digital technologies are widespread in society. They are disrupting our institutions, schools, family, etc. And we don't yet have the institutions that would allow us to truly live in a digital society. We are in a period of epochal transition. Knowing this, it would seem that one task would be to guide this transition, that is, to propose concepts, ideas, or initiatives to envision a society no longer based on printed text, but on digital memories. This could be a role for philosophy, to propose concepts, even positive proposals, to define the institutions that would be adapted to the new digital system. We would call this project the GRI, for General Reform of Institutions. For example, we can ask, will there be a redistribution of governmental power with this shift in reference points? In other words, who will hold power in this new digital era? However, we have seen that, in previous eras, power was distributed among the users of the arts. And a characteristic of digital technology is that, while its operation is indeed governed by a few, it is used by everyone. That is to say, with digital technology, everyone, or the vast majority, now, has access to the arts. We should therefore conclude that Everyone, or the vast majority, should also be able to share power, and, with the widespread adoption of digital technology, the vast majority should hold the power too. In other words, according to this theory of reference systems, which posits that those who possess power are also those who control the artis, we would abandon the system of representative democracy, dominated by the bourgeoisie, and move towards a political revolution, and the organization of a system of direct democracy. Thus, this coming era, following the era of the bourgeoisie, could be called the popular era. The theory of the artis thus allows us to establish a new historical division, proposing the following succession: the clan era, the era of royal empires, the feudal era, the bourgeois era, and the popular era, which is yet to come. We can try to imagine the evolution of each of today's institutions, the university, the police, the religion, that fit the popular era. But this will be the subject of the second volume of the Delirium, where we will attempt to present a method, and some results, for the revision of institutions. But before we go any further, we thank you warmly for your attention. Feel free to share if you feel the need. And don't hesitate to offer us criticisms, questions, or to get involved by contributing to the revision of the institutions. You can contact us in the comments or by email. I am the Modern Druid and say to you, see you soon, perhaps.